Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talk the Ting with Dwayne George and Hadley Joseph. We would like to apologize for the 3 minute late start. Before we continue, I would like to say, on behalf of myself and Dwayne George, my co host, a big thank you to all the people who viewed last week's episode. We'd like to thank Shelly Alfred for being a part of our first interview episode. And tonight we have with us Mr. Liam L9 Sebastien, one of Dominica's most prominent names in sports. And even today, he is making some sort of headway in the entertainment and music industry right now. So today we're gonna have a nice talk. Like we said last week, we're gonna have a drink. So guys, whatever drink you have right now, just raise it up. And we want you to grab a drink, get some wine, get a beer, some liquor, and just sit with us for this 1 hour as we get to know Liam Sebastien a little more. We would appreciate if you would share the live, comment. We will try our best to interact with you, the viewers, as much as possible, and even answer one or two of your questions. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host right now, and let's do it. Let's talk the thing.
All right. So Liam, we go way back, man. We go way back. And it's nice to talk to you again after a few years. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us. So for the people who don't know you, right? And I don't think that that's a lot of people, but for the people who don't know you, or maybe they heard your name, how who's Liam? And just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Liam Sebastien from Goodwill. Most people know me for cricket. That has been what basically brought my name to prominence in terms of playing cricket. So most people will know me for cricket, but I'm currently employed at the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization and Kalinago Upliftment as the project officer. So that's another field that I have been in, and as Hadley just mentioned, currently with the signal ban on the road, manager of a signal ban. So I guess I wear different hats in one frame with different hats.
All right. So, I just wanted to say before we even get into, the crux of Liam, right? I just wanted to say it was kind of ironic because before we were setting up, Liam kind of brought up, we all have black shirts and people might think that we actually planned that. But we actually didn't plan it. It just happened,
It happened, yeah.
But, I just wanted to say that, it's good to see, and Liam, I know Liam for a number of years now. It's good to see, a lot of young, a few black men doing positive, right? Positive stuff in the community, helping out. I know Liam helps out with coaching and, all these different things that help, a lot of black men who look like us and who grew up in the same situation like us. So with that said, Liam, take us back to, to your young days, right? I know your father was a popular man in cricket back then, and still is. Take us back to your young days, in sports and your interests. Just let us know, how do you get started in cricket? I know your father maybe pushed you, but still, tell us, how you get started in cricket and sports overall. Where did you develop your love for sports?
Well, my childhood days was simple in the sense that it was basically centered around sport. As you said, my father obviously being a cricketer, the influence from that side is obviously heavy. But ironically, I actually started playing football at a national level before I started playing cricket. And I was, in fact, more in love with football than cricket. But it came a point where my father said basically to me that I had to make a decision because I was missing too much school, in the sense that today, let's say for instance Tuesday, I playing football, I have to leave school after 12. And then Wednesday, I have a cricket match, so the entire day I out. And then it was just like, Liam, you're missing too much school. A decision has to be made as to which one you want to take up. Obviously, there was his advice in leaning to the cricket side, which is kind of not strange because he was a cricketer and wanted me to follow in his footsteps. So, yes, he advised me and put on the table the opportunities that could be presented if I followed the cricket path. And in terms of starting to play cricket, I really started playing cricket in the passage of his house. So that's where he basically used to teach me in before a win ball to just to go through the early stages, and then from there, I guess it just blossomed.
All right, all right. So you said you were more in love with football. Is that still the case?
Well, no, because my career, my livelihood has been built around cricket. So no, it's not. But I still play football. In fact, every morning I still play football. It's something that I still love, and I'm an ardent Manchester United fan. It's a forever thing. So I haven't lost the that interest level in terms of me and the football side of it. But cricket has been the dominant part of my life.
All right.
Okay. Um, so do you remember your first cricket match? And what did you expect out of yourself playing that first game? And what was it like? Were you under pressure? Were you confident? Were you overconfident? Were you like, yeah, I'm gonna do this? Like your first match. Tell us about your first cricket match.
To be honest, I don't remember the first match that I played, but what I can recall from back then is that I was very excited to play. I used to sleep with my cricket bat next to me. I used to sleep with my shoes in my feet, that sort of thing, because I was that eager. And I remember in my early stages, I got a bat from my auntie from England, and it was sleeping next to me. And in the middle of the night, my father got up and took it and put it like beside the bed. And then when I got up to use the bathroom, I saw it beside the bed. I just picked it up again and put it right beside me because I used to sleep with my new shoes. I was just so excited to play in that sense. So I don't remember the first match that I played, but I remember some of the things that I used to do in the lead up to those games.
Okay.
So I remember watching you. I mean, we played pretty much like on the 19, I guess, together. I could say. I remember watching you playing in 2004 in the on the 19 World Cup. You and Mervin Matthew.
Yeah.
How was that experience, man? I mean, from basically from your days of, let's say, starting to play cricket, and then getting to the point where you actually represent West Indies, at multiple levels. You know, how was that experience overall?
That experience was a good one, but it was a challenge because being we well on that tour we had two stops. We first our training camp was in Sri Lanka, and then we moved to Bangladesh. And the culture the culture difference on that side of the world is we're talking about a great space in terms of their culture and our culture. So it was something that we had to get accustomed to. And one of the funny things, before we went to Bangladesh, there was a Trinidadian who said that he had been there and they told us to prepare for going into cold conditions. So most of us, our parents gave us, long sleeve and long pants. And when we got to Sri Lanka, the heat was like it almost we were feeling like okay, we wouldn't be able to even play a game. And then just the pollution, the poverty, all of those things. Looking at that firsthand from a young age, it was sort of how to say, an eye
And I,
opener in a
right,
sense
right.
for you to cherish what you have at home. But the highlight, I believe, of that tour was I remember us playing against Pakistan. And I've never played a game with so many people in my life. And we're talking about under 19. It was so loud that the distance between players, let's say if you were on if the distance. I'm talking about half court of a basketball court. If I was there and the other guy was at the half court, and you couldn't even hear what he was saying because it was so
Wow.
loud, and that is
Wow.
people not knowing West Indian players from head to toe, not knowing anybody, but just because they were so passionate about cricket. And it was an experience that I really remember, really cherish to this day because not only playing with some of the guys who have turned out to be, great players, played with Alistair Cook, who is now, he's been knighted by the Queen, and Ting, a lot of guys who have made it at the international level successfully. So it's something that I can look back on to say that, okay, I was proud of.
So if that said, now, I mean, listen, I'm a massive cricket fan. Everybody knows that. So with that said, I mean, I always picture like, what would it be like to, have interaction with those kind of guys, right? I mean, I know you play regional, you captain Winwards from what, under 15 up to senior level, playing with guys who play international cricket. When you play in the CPL, the inaugural Sanford 2020, like all those type of stuff where you actually came across certain people that I don't know if you ever thought like, oh, I maybe never would have encountered these people. Like, what was it
Yeah,
feeling like?
that is, I think, for instance, Kevin Peterson. I never thought I would have been close to the guy. I mean, I remember seeing him once in England, but that was me watching a match in England. But to share the same dressing room with him and some of the players that I have been able to play with, it's something that, I mean, a lot of people say, okay, it's my dream, but it's never been my dream because I never believed that that would have become a reality. So it was something that was never close to my mind in terms of being a reality. But then the actual experience of, just being around these guys and seeing how some of them are so down to earth, because people believe when you say quote unquote famous guys or stars, they're this bigoted set of people that they don't talk to people, they don't say hello, that sort of way. But when you get to know people, it's something completely different than when you're looking at them from a distance.
Mm. All right.
Okay. So you an all rounder, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you bat, you bowl, you basically can do everything on the field. What was, as far as you can remember, your best performance? You like, since you're an all-rounder, I want an all-rounder's best performance, not a batsman's best performance or a bowler. What was your best all-rounder performance? The one day that you were good with the bat and good with the ball. What was that performance and what was it like?
The the first memory that comes to mind was a game we played in Dominica, regional senior cricket against the Leeward Islands. Um, I made 82 not out, and I took 8 wickets in the match.
Wow.
And we won. But then the highlight for me in that was at the time I was batting, we were 50, 57 for 70. And we ended up making 350 something like that. And I had a hand to play in almost everything in that match. In terms, I was the captain at the time, so I was leading the team. I scored runs and I took wickets. So that, for me, that's the first thing that comes out to mind right away in terms of my memory as an all-rounder.
Okay. Yep.
But then I know hardly say all wrong there, but what out of batting, bowling, fielding, what was your favorite thing to do then?
Out of batting, bowling, fielding, in in stages, I would say the earlier stage of my career, I would say batting, and then the latter end, I would say bowling, because I I sacrificed a lot in terms of me dropping myself lower into the team, because everybody had this stigma that when one's cricket, they cannot bat. So we had to sort of stretch our batting lineup a little. And I, for the latter part of my career, I would have sacrificed myself and brought myself lower down in the order. And even some of my teammates used to be like, boy, you can bat better than that. You need to go up the order and that sort of thing. So I would say it was in stages. The earlier part was batting, and in the latter stage, I would say bowling.
So I gonna put you on blast a little bit there, right? So partner of mine, Grayson, or partner. He tell me he tell me to ask you why you running out in Vinci after the kill of the new ball.
After what?
After you kill off the new ball, he say, why you running out?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Good answer. Good answer.
I guess we'll talk about that after you remind me.
Yeah.
So like we said, you played cricket on almost every single level there is. You played domestically, you played regionally, and you have some international cricket under your belt. Professionally, who is the best player that you've played with? I'm not sure if we're trying to get the best player on your team that you've played with or the best player that you've played against, but who is the best player that you enjoyed playing with on the field, whether he was on your team or not? Like, tell us about that person.
Brian Lara, hands down, no doubt about it. And well, there are no repercussions now, but when we played against Brian, he scored 100, and I was just sometimes I would even forget myself on the field just looking at the class of that man. And he hands down, I mean, he's my idol as a cricketer, and I'm just as a cricketer, Brian Lara was the favorite person that I played with all game.
So he is your favorite player of all time?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So what's your favorite? I mean, you played all over the world, right? So what's one of the places that you absolutely love playing?
Guyana. My favorite places to play is Guyana.
Why is that?
For reasons to this day I may be not even too sure about, because Guyana's always been a tough place to play. But maybe because I've been very successful down there in my career, I take it to say as one of my favorite places, Guyana. And then I lived in Barbados for a while, so Barbados would obviously be up there. But if I was to take one to stand out, it would be Guyana.
Okay.
All right.
So let's
go ahead, Adley. Go ahead.
So how would a local cricketer from obviously Dominica go from playing cricket in Dominica and get into playing regionally and maybe even onto West Indies? What would be the process of even getting that sort of attention first? Because you could have the talent, and if people don't see, then you're not gonna make it. So what do you think? What can you tell the young guys who are watching who are interested? What is the process of actually making it to that point?
Your performance, because to get to the senior level at any age, well, not any age, but any sport, you have to perform at every single level to be seen by the relevant people. So you may have a lot of talent, but then in a certain tournament you do not perform, you fail, and then that is the tournament where a team was being selected to go such and such a place, or there was a certain scout looking at you. So performance is the main thing there to get you to the next level. I mean, talent is there, but some scouts will be able to pick you on your talent, even if you have not performed. But for the most part, your performance is what dictates if you get to the next level.
Okay, so where do they see you? Because I remember most guys would come from school, and sometimes it would so it starts in school cricket, or maybe, and then from school cricket, I would guess club cricket, and then you make
sometimes it may not. Sometimes it may go from school to the national age group level. So from your school, you would go to under 15 or under 19, and then you move into club and then graduate to the different level. But sometimes it moves from the school to the national age group levels. So like in my case, before I played for a club, I would have played with the under 50. So it was going for different levels. So I would have been playing for my school in Dominica under 15, and then when was under 15 and going for the different levels.
Okay.
So with that said, I know you played for Dominica at a very young age, right? I can't remember what your how old you were at the time, but when you come in as a young man, whether it be for Dominica or whether it be for Windwards or at any level, and you're the new person, right? You're the new guy. You kind of have to prove yourself, right? Your father had a name, so you don't want to leave. I guess you don't want to leave off your father's name. You want to, make your own name, right? You felt any unnecessary, not unnecessary, I would say, but unfair treatment or any pressure that you felt was kind of unfair, or how did you deal with that?
Maybe unfair may not be the right word, but pressure, yes. Because I made the national team at a very early age, at 14, somewhere around there. And even to get into the team, it was tough. I remember in the trial matches, I had the second highest score, I think I scored 96 in the trial. So in terms of getting onto the team performance-wise, I had the performance. But then it was difficult because at that age, you're still soft in your mind, you're still a little boy, and then you're coming up to play with people like Roy Marshall. And the reality of it is, people who know Roy Marshall know how difficult Roy is. And I mean, no bones about it. Roy made me cry in my first year on the senior national team. Because I just, I wasn't maybe expecting, that sort of tough love in a sense, in that he was a no-nonsense person, but you're still expecting at that time, even if you're playing senior cricket, you expect somebody to put the arm around you and say, well, okay, let's take the youngster. But it was a sort of a rough initiation in the sense that you in the big leagues, you have to step out of that under 15 thing. You're a big man now, so it's big people business.
Yeah, baptism by fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, man. But regionally, so I mean, the I guess I could say the stigma or the mindset is that, especially people who come from the smaller islands, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, those kind of places, right? When you play with, let's say you like on the West Indies, let's say on the 19 team, you're playing with guys from Trinidad, guys from Jamaica, guys from the big islands. You felt pressure there having to prove yourself, even being from a small island. How was that?
Even before you step on the field, the pressure was always there at any level, whether it be on the 19, on the 15 senior team, because it was still Winner Island, small island people against the bigger islands. So it was always, you had to step in there, and from even, let's say, the opening ceremony of the competition, even the way you dress, those guys will be laughing, because at the time on the 15, the trainees have, more access to different stuff, and you have Winwards, some guys, piece of their shoe falling out, they have a big pants, a big shirt, and they're looking weird because they come in, obviously, guys not as fortunate as some of the others. The Bajans have their blazer and their tie and everything, and Winwards just have a long sleeve. Some fellas have some big black pants and that sort of thing. So the ridicule was there from an early age, but in terms of talent wise, when you hit the field, Winwards always had a bunch of tough guys in that they were ready to take on the bigger names for just thinking, okay, that we're not here just to compete. Is we're here to do the same thing as you and we're here to win. So in that sense, from the pressure, it was from before the tournament started, the pressure was on.
Okay, so to piggyback sort of on that response, what advice do you give to young players who have the potential, but they are struggling to perform at their best? And it could be from, again, like ridicule, or maybe most times making a bad decision and get out early, but it doesn't mean that they can't do it. It's just that, sometimes you make a bad decision. What advice do you give that person? Because, sometimes these guys can say, you know what, I'm done playing. What can you tell these people, these youngsters?
You have to be able to block off a lot of the negative stuff because you're going to get a lot more negative energy rather than the positive. As stupid as it might sound, that is just because you will fail more than you succeed in cricket, barring the exceptions where you have the greats in Don Bradman and Brian Lara and these guys who were just top class. You're going to fail more than you succeed as a cricketer. So you have to be able to block off the negative. And in the sense that the periods where you're going good, you have to try to ride those periods as long as possible. Because there will come a time where you will start to doubt yourself, where you will think, okay, but I'm not doing anything different, but everything is just going against you. Balls that you would be catching, you dropping them, shots that you normally good at, you getting out. And then it's just a test of character, a test of your mind to say that these times it happens to the best, that they go through these difficult periods is how you block off all of the negative energy to get back on track, to put yourself in that frame of mind that you can succeed. Because you could be the most talented person on earth. I'm not too sure if I can speak on other sports, but in cricket, most of cricket is played in your mind. You have to have some sort of smartness in the sense because cricket is a lot of angles, a lot of mathematics, and in terms of breaking down situations, is a lot of education stuff in it. Even if from the outside it might just look like a man just have a bat hitting a ball, but there's a lot of precision in terms of finding the gaps and all of that. So you have to be able to block off the negative you have to separate the negative from the positive.
So now you mentioned education, right? So I do know that you're an educated man, and what do you think, or what value do you put on education? And for instance, if you're a young man showing talent, or I shouldn't say young man, but young person showing talent, and you're being recognized for that talent. Um, um, but how would you advise anybody to potentially put, let's say, school on the back burner and pursue sports, or would you say that is something that could be done simultaneously? And if so, what are some of the things that you think would help if you want to do it, let's say, simultaneously?
I would never advise anybody to put school on the back burner. Not just because I have been successful in that part of it, but there is always life after sport. In that you have to live well. That's dependent on what God decides for us. But in an average world, you have to live past your sporting days, and based on how successful you are as a sportsman, that can dictate what happens to you in your after sport life. So even for me, I have always put education over sports for even the people that I speak to, the younger ones. I've always encouraged them to put education first. And as I always tell them, not just because I have been there, done that, because it's not something that I boast about to say that, oh, I have a master's degree and you have to follow me. And it's not that. But just understanding the dynamics of having that paper in your hand to be able to dictate your position in life, in that you can go to employers and basically say, okay, no, I don't think I'm worth this if you're giving me that. I think I should negotiate such and such. Also, playing sport, it takes a split second to have a career-ending injury. And without the educational background of it, if that happens, then you try now to find your feet, and then you may lose track of where you want to get. So my educational journey was a very, very interesting one, in the sense that I was never interested in furthering my education. And today I have a master's degree. When I remember finishing grammar school, I was like, that's the end. I don't want to see no books. I didn't even want to go to Clifton at the time, Clifton Dipping Community College, because I was like, I don't need that. I have a job. I changed my phone number to postpaid and I just calling everybody just because I have postpaid. I just making phone calls, and I live in at my mother home, my father there, and I comfortable, like good to go. And then I remember going to Guyana for under 19 tour. And because I was overseas, I wasn't directly involved in, full uniform. And at that time, we didn't have, that easy access to email those things. So the communique was basically coming from my father. And he was like, well, you have to go to college because, you have to further education. And then I was like, but in my mind, I was like, but I'm not interested in that. That's not what I want to do. I want to stay home. I have a car driving. I have money coming. I don't want to go to school. So then it was, that you have to go to college. And at the time, because up to this day, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I do not have maths for CX. So it was difficult for me to do some of the courses that I wanted to do in college, and then I had to settle, for doing sociology and English and something else, and French, I believe it was. So even then, when I finished college, I was like, that is the end. Nobody going to get me to go and go no books or not like, because I definitely finished. And then the offer came for me to get a scholarship at UE. And I wasn't interested in it. The first thing I said to the people at UE was, can this scholarship be deferred? Because I'm not ready for this sort of challenge in my life. And they were like, unfortunately, no, we cannot defer the scholarship. It is almost no for now. And it was almost, I just had to pick up like right away to go to school. And at the time, I was a mama's boy. I was spoiled, cook. I couldn't wash. I couldn't do those things. So I was like, look, if I go and live on my own, how am I going to function? Because I cannot do a lot of the things that I need to do to survive in a situation where I'll be living on my own. So that educational part of it was interesting in the sense that I didn't want to be where I am today. And I wouldn't say it was forced upon me. It was the advice that I was given, especially from my parents, in the sense that, hey, you may not see it now. And I just remember one of the final things my father said to me is, even if you go to university today, by the time you finish university, you still have almost your whole life ahead of you. You still be young, you still have a lot of things that you want to do. And to this day, I don't regret going to school. And I would encourage anybody to take up that offer to, if they have the opportunity, or to try to get themselves educated, because you may not see it, it might sound stupid, but 5 to 10 years down the line, to pick up garbage, you're going to have to need some sort of paper in your hand. They would not be asking some people to just say, okay, well, here you from the salary would come on. You would need some sort of paper in your hand to say, well, okay, you have CXCs. And well, when I was going to school, CXC was the thing. Everybody, you have to have 5, 6 CXCs. But now people are not really interested in CXCs. They want to know what degree you have in your hand. And if you're not positioning yourself to be in line with these changes, then you kind of almost slip away from the direction that you may want for yourself.
All right. I like how we nicely just transitioned from sports into education. So, seeing that we're on education, what was your field of study, both in undergrad and at graduate level?
My,
And
oh, sorry.
and how effective do you actually use those 2 degrees or any one of them in your field of work right now? And when I say field of work, I actually mean your job with the government and your job as road manager, because like you said, eventually any job that you do, you're gonna have to have a piece of paper for it. So with your level of education and your background in that field of education, how do these degrees translate into what you actually do right now, both in music and in your actual day job?
I think it fits in perfectly in the sense that, as you asked the question, what is my field of study? And both my undergrad and my postgrad is in the field of management. So I have an undergrad in management and I have a postgrad in international management. So it covered, a lot of management practices. And my master's program focused a lot on the international aspect on it. Because one of the components of the international program was that we had to complete a 2 weeks course in Spain. So it gave a different perspective as to how people in a different walk of life basically go through their everyday life. So it fits in perfectly in that, okay, let's put it that way, road manager, I have the management background. In project officer, which is a management position in the ministry, I have a lot of management stuff to do. So in that sense, it kind of ties it. My job kind of fits in to what I studied, in the sense that the management part of it, although the environment part was something very new to me. And I have to give credit to PS Karen Prevo. She was the one who basically took me from being a cricketer, that sort of way, to getting into that management side of it, down to giving me, a pen on my desk to say, okay, hey, giving you all the resources that you need, we will guide you. It's just for you to use your knowledge and your expertise to get the job done. So my qualification fits in perfectly in my view in that regard.
Okay, and just a quick question added to that. Do you ever feel that, like, every day when you get to work, do you ever feel that, yo, I wish I had gotten to the extreme highest level of cricket and I wish I was still out there doing that? Has this feeling ever crossed your mind at any time? Especially when you may come across a frustrating time at work, at the office.
Yeah, a lot of times in that, especially when there are certain challenges that you have to get over. It kind of comes back to say, but who really sent me to do what I'm doing now? It's kind of not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be playing cricket. I wanted to be playing for the West Indies. Just just doing that for the rest of my life and not having to worry about, well, financially, I'll be good. I have a big house. I have driving this car, whatever. But then I had to go a different direction in that it didn't happen that way. So now I had to be planting trees. So you asking me about planting trees, I knew very little about it. I was not interested in it. But when the challenges came, yes, I would have asked myself, like, who really put me into this? I wish I was doing something else, but in the reality of it is I'm not. And if I was to harp on that real or that dream that I wanted to be a professional cricketer, it would have taken me off the track to understand that I have to be dynamic and fluid in whatever I'm doing. So not I will not end up where I definitely want it to be. Sometimes that you have to go a different track to get on the other side of it, get back. So sometimes it's not basically what you want, it's what is given to you based on how things pan out. And there are a lot of different things that factor into that decision, but then a lot of them that you cannot control or you cannot change because if it was left all up to me, I would be playing cricket at the highest level because that's what I wanted to do. But at the end of the day, it is not dependent on what you want to do, but what reality allows you to do. And it's just that perfect situation. But I was prepared for that fluidness of the situation in that I have to just live basically on what is happening and not what I think or what I want.
So with that said, I was just thinking, you know, how do you feel about the culture of participation trophies and because I mean when we were growing up in sports, I mean like you said, you had to perform, and if you didn't perform, you didn't get a prize just for coming to practice or for training. Now it kind of seems like let's give everybody a medal for showing up, and everybody you have to make everybody pander to how people feel. And how do you feel about that specific method of, I guess, management or coaching? Um, and I'm asking that question because I know you are currently dealing with coaching and helping younger guys. So how do you deal with that, and how do you bring that across to them?
The reward is good to reward people for their services at different levels, but then some of the rewards that are given out, I would say it's been given out a little bit too easy in the sense that it makes people go through the different stages thinking that, okay, if I just do like maybe I score 10 runs, I might get a medal for the best shot played in the match or something. And then when you get to the bigger stage or to the higher level and you see the difficulty of getting the success, it's kind of a culture shock to you, or it's a shock to you to say, but I'm not really getting any recognition. Am I really not good? Or when I was playing earlier, I used to be getting, $5 for the best catch in a match, and then playing at the highest level. Nobody really cared about giving me reward for some of those things. So it it I guess it's relative to the situation and what you're trying to achieve as a coach. If you looking to make people understand what it is to work hard and get the rewards for working hard rather than just getting a handout per se or something given to you.
Okay.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier on that you were involved in music. Um, Me being, I would say, still part of the musical fraternity in Dominica, there's a lot of guys who are, let's say, road crew or even road managers who get involved because they know somebody in the band, you know. So I'm curious as to, is this was this job something that you were approached for because whoever was the manager of the institution, which is Signal Band, saw something in you, or was it a scenario where you offered your services because you felt that you had something to offer to Signal Band right now?
Well, prior to working with Signal Bank, which I am currently, I was the road manager for WCP, and that job was I presented a document to Keith and said, okay, I think the band needs a structure, blah blah blah. And Kenneth Esper at the time, two of us were studying in different universities, and we had discussions, and we said that we love WCK so much and we wanted to be part of it. So, we presented a document and then we got involved with the band. But then in Signal, difference was I have been involved with Signal in an unofficial capacity for a while, in that I was production head for Illumination for the past 2 years. And anybody who knows me knows that Jelani was growing up, especially in cricket, was like a little brother to me. So Jelani is currently the manager of Signal Band. So it was not a difficult decision in that sense, in that he approached me, we believe that you have the capabilities, we know that you can do it, blah, blah, blah. And from a personal level, we know each other well. So it was an easy transition in the sense to say that with Signal Band, it was like, okay, yes, the offer was made and it wasn't hesitation to say, let's accept it, because I was almost like involved in it already. So in that sense, yes, it was presented and it was accepted on the spot.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna go through a little lightning round of questions. The only thing we want from you is a one word answer. One word. All right. So we're gonna start off with this one. Who is the fastest bowler you ever faced?
Tino Best.
What's your highest score?
143. I think Barbados.
Wow.
Who is the most skilled bowler you ever faced?
It'd either be Shane Chillingford or Sunil Narayan, I would say. One of the two.
But okay, so pause the lightning round there for a bit. So with that said, Shane and Narayan, I guess both spin bowlers, in case anybody not sure. But what were some of the most challenging things about facing them?
The variety in they had a bag of deliveries. It wasn't just okay off spin. They could bowl the dusra. They had an arm ball. And a lot of people maybe listening to this don't know what these things are. But if you understand the cricket dynamic, you'll understand what I'm saying. They had a variety of deliveries, and it was almost an ever-changing game for them. In that next week you would be like, okay, well, I conquered this one, and then something else would just come out of the back. So it was always you having to be ready for something new in that sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there one player that you maybe never played with that you thought that, man, I would have loved to play with him?
A tough, a tough, tough.
Chop, chop, chop.
I mean, I ended up playing with Brian because my idol. So to me, that almost just sealed everything to me, because I really don't do. Sometimes I used to even walk like Brian. So it it was like once I played with him, I could sit down next to him. I was like, I guess that was it. So I'm not too sure exactly who I would come off the top of my head.
Okay, your best bowling figures.
Um, I have it on the wall somewhere there. I have it on the wall. Right, obviously, I've it's 7 wickets. 7 wickets for 59 or 58, somewhere there, both against Jamaica in Jamaica. That was my figures.
Well, with that said, right? So, I mean, I went to Jamaica late last year for my first time, and I was always thinking that like when I go to a Caribbean country, I'm from the Caribbean, so whatever. But when you go to like places like Jamaica or Trinidad, and you hear about Jamaica, a bad man and this and that. Were you guys ever like scared, like maybe even let's say when you have no practice or whatever, that you maybe in Kingston, you may be walking around, go get something to eat. Was that ever a concern for you
Very,
guys?
I think, very scared as you would. In that maybe where you went in Jamaica, you would not have experienced some of the stuff that we would have experienced at times. I'm not saying that we went through a rough time, but I just as you're saying that, I remember the situation in Augustown. We pull up to and Augustown, for those who know, Sizzler is from that area, and at the time it was a holiday, so not too many places were open. And then we were on these big transport board buses, and then the driver was like, okay, that is the only shop that we can get close to where we stay. So he literally parked the bus in front of the door of the shop. And then he was like, when you get off the bus, go straight through the door and come straight back in the bus. Do not look left, do not look right. And it was obvious the reason why he was saying that, because the next morning we were sleeping, and then we wake up to the sun, bow, 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 and trying to figure out. And it's like, why are you scared? It's like, that is just a man maybe just pinning his gun in the morning. But we're not accustomed to those things. You ain't got such thing.
Wow.
So me, well, first of all, I'm not really a person who just goes out all over the place. So once again, when I go to these places, when I get there, I go to practice. Sometimes we go to the town, but straight back to our room. And then for me, with like jewelry part of it, as soon as we get to certain countries, they take off the jewelry, and they would advise us to take off our jewelry and lock them away until we were ready to leave the country, because some places tough.
Yeah, I could see that, man. I mean, I was thinking about that actually, because when I went down there, I was in Montego Bay, and we wanted to go to like a regular place to get like jerk chicken, and the people was like, no, like no, don't leave, don't leave. Yep. So yeah, man. So
not saying that they don't have nice sites and so, but it all depends on where. I mean, just like in any country you go as a tourist, they will tell you certain places don't go there, don't venture there. It's no different, but it's just that maybe it has a lot more of these hotspots than other countries.
So I want to ask one more question. We have 8 minutes left, and we're trying to stay within time. But there's a lot of people who see, to the viewers right now, I'm pretty sure that you could see that his name on the screen is Liam L9 Sebastien. Some people know what L9 means. Some people maybe figured it out. But for those people who don't know what the L9 in your name stands for, can you please elaborate on that?
Well, my name is Liam, so the L comes from Liam, and I'm born on the 9th of the 9th month, 9th of September, so that's why my name is L9.
all the time I thinking is because you like Ronaldo or something, and you just
But actually, remember Ronaldo had R9, and
right.
I used to follow him, and then I was like, sometimes I was like, with R9, okay, how about L9? And then fitting, I'm born on the 9th of the 9th, so I just thought that, yeah, I'll go ahead with that.
So am I the only person who was thinking that the 9 actually stands for your sports number?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It is because I am born on the 9th of the 9th.
Okay, so your number was actually 9 because I actually thought that the L, I figured the L was Liam, but I actually really thought that the 9 was really because of your number in sports.
It is.
So
So
I guess
at least said he had one more question, but I have one more question for you. This one gonna be tough, I think. So, I mean, obviously I live in the States now, but I go back to Dominica every year, right? And one of the things I always kind of look for is like, or ask around about, is the state of sports currently in the country in terms of specifically cricket. Like, for example, Makushri was one of the places I enjoyed playing the most. And since after the storms and stuff, Makushri is no longer there to be used. What is your opinion on the state of sports? Do you think, and what do you think can be done to encourage young people to get involved more in sports in Dominica, and more specifically cricket?
I think a lot more could be done for sports in Dominica. I'm talking about across the board in terms of infrastructure, the resources needed. But then they may come back to say, okay, well, maybe the resources needed, the finance to get them is not available. But there are a lot of avenues for sports persons because we have a lot of students outside of Dominica doing well in sport and academics. But when they basically finish with that, they're almost not sure what to do or where to go because there's not something to basically come back to in the sense that they are doing some improvements now in terms of some of the facilities, but we don't have an indoor facility, we don't have an athletics track, we don't have a proper football match. If the national team has to play, we have to sometimes, depends on the readiness of the stadium, we have to host a game outside of Dominica, which is our home game, sorry. So a lot more could be done, and it's the reality of the situation. I'm not saying it is that person or that person, but I think everybody can do a lot more in terms of sports because there are avenues. Sports is not a hobby anymore. It's a business. And if you have to get with the times, you have to move with the business times.
So with that said, man, we definitely appreciate you joining us tonight. We definitely enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot. Some of the questions I asked you was for my own knowledge because I always wonder some of these things, But we definitely appreciate you coming on and joining us. I do want to point out that, and I want to stress this, that, we are trying to push some positive content, and this is some of the content that we want to push. And again, this is our second guest and another successful, Black man, doing his thing, all, living in Dominica. And, we appreciate everybody for watching tonight. We want to thank Liam again for coming on. And next week, we'll be having Mr. Felix Augustine on with us. And we'll be putting out the flyer sometime soon. But before the next episode next week, we will be doing a special episode on Saturday evening at 8 o'clock, where we will be discussing some of the issues that are currently affecting us as Black people, whether it be in America or throughout the world in terms of racism. In that episode, we would encourage, and we want to encourage everybody to join us, ask questions, and then we will try to address them as we can. All right. So with that said, thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I will see you guys on Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. No problem. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Take care, man.
All right.